Okay, I was joking with you. After all the problems with the microphone last week, how many of you were just about to start typing no sound? So hopefully you have got sound, you can hear me, and I've got a slightly different setup with the sound this week, which hopefully, fingers crossed and all that, should deal with the problems that we had last week with the sound disappearing on several occasions. The turning it on and off has now been automated, so that as I move from one bit of the live stream to another, if the sound should be on, it should be on automatically. If it shouldn't, it should turn off automatically. So let's hope it all works. Okay, so welcome to the show, everyone. And Terry just typed no audio. Oh dear. I hope there really is audio. Is there? Yep, it's showing on my screen that there is audio there. Right, okay. So welcome to the show, everyone. And this week we're looking at websites for photographers. And I was in two minds about which way to approach this. I'd had a question come in, and that was about what's needed with setting up a website. So I thought, rather than me just talk about all the requirements, I thought I'll look at some photographers' websites, give some feedback so it benefits them, and hopefully that will help those of you who are setting up websites at the same time. So I should cover all the bases as we go through there. So why are my slides not advancing? Okay, great. I've got a working microphone, but no working slides, which could be a problem. So, okay, at this point then, let's see what we can do. Right, let me restart PowerPoint. So you're going to get Sir Ian behind me while I do that. Sorry about this, folks. Just when you solve one problem, something else crashes, and it definitely looks like PowerPoint has crashed on me. Exit that. I hope it saved it. Restart PowerPoint. Right. So start slideshow from the beginning. Move it onto the right page. Maximize. Right, let's try that again. Yes! Oh, sorry about that, folks. I do seem to be having problems with technology here, but at least hopefully one of it is has been solved. Right, okay, for those who are new to these shows, let me just explain a little bit about them. They are weekly Sunday night shows, and 7:30 each Sunday. They will remain on my on YouTube for a while in full. They will then move over to my academy, and a cut down version will be placed on YouTube in the place. So if you want to see the full archive of the past ones, once I do all the edits, you will have to join my academy. I am also posting extracts from them all on YouTube as well for people to see. That's going on. Right, the live chat is a significant part of these evenings, so hopefully you've got that. You do need to be logged into your Google account into YouTube to be able to see it, and there's various things already going on there. Rick wanting to know whether PowerPoint was written by Adobe. No, Rick, it was written by Microsoft. Yeah, if you've got questions, put them in there. There will be a slight delay between you asking them and you typing things in there and me seeing them, because there is a delay from me speaking to you hearing me. About 30 seconds normally, though it has been known to be about 2 minutes. If you're watching on the replay, put your comments in the comments field. I do read every comment that's posted, and I do reply to them all, although there are a couple of that I'm still need to reply to. A few people replied to one of my other videos, and I'm aware I haven't responded to them yet. That's because, well, I'll explain when I respond on there. My usual plea at this point, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, both this one and the travel photography one that I've got going now. Do comment on the videos. It does help my ranking in YouTube if there's comments that I'm replying to. Do like them. You know you want to. Just go and hit the like button now whilst you're listening to me do the general introduction on this. And do share the links. A big thanks to everyone who has been sharing links both to the live stream and to the other videos as well. And I really do appreciate that, folks. I'm always looking out for contributors for the 3-minute edits. We've got a nice little supply at the moment, but everyone who has supplied something by the end of tonight will have had at least one of their images done on the 3-minute edits. I want to give priority to those who've not had anything done. So if you've not been on there and want to supply something, do get in touch. I'll send you the details on that. I've got a new photographer showcase that will be going out next time. But if you want to take part in that, again, let me know and I will send you the details for that. I want to give a big plug to a couple of Facebook groups at this point. I have a Facebook group. It's called, surprisingly, In Studio on there. And I know many of you are members of that group, and thank you for being members of it. But for those of you who aren't, I'd just like to encourage you to join that group. There's a link for it down in the notes below the video. And there I tend to sort of ask the questions about how can people get, asking for people to get involved. So if you want to be involved, that's a great place to hang out, because that's where you'll get to know what's going on first, because I tend to post there about things to do with photography before I post anywhere else, and even before my newsletter they go in there. But I'm not the only one with a Facebook group. Rick has one as well, and I can't put his URL on the screen because he doesn't appear to have a vanity URL on there. Correct me if I am wrong, Rick. The only link I could find was the big long one with all the funny numbers in there. So I've put that down in the show notes below the video, and you can join that group as well. And I know Rick would be thrilled to have you as part of his photography group on there. And I'm an admin on his group, he's an admin on mine, so we do help out on the two groups. So on the show this week, what have we got? Well, we've got a news section. Always start with the news section. We've got these website reviews that I'm doing as we look into what's required for a photographer to have a website. We have the 3-minute edit challenge going on there, and we have a live Q&A. So as I mentioned, get your questions in the chat. So on to the news. What's been going on this week? Well, I've only got 2 new videos posted to the YouTube channels, one on each channel. On the travel channel, let's start with that one first. My travel log from Cherbourg, going round there and looking at the sites there. A few hints and tips on what to photograph there for those of you who are travellers, travel photographers. I know some of you who I've met on the cruises may well value those travel logs. So Cherbourg gone up on there. Perhaps the more intriguing one is the one that's on the main channel, this YouTube channel, and that's entitled, "Can I open my studio again?" And this is in direct response to the news that came out from the government this week to say that businesses can open on the 15th of June, and in their guidelines they explicitly talk about photo studios. So this is good news, isn't it? Well, maybe it's not quite such good news that we're thinking about. because there are certain restrictions in play, and that video shows how those restrictions affect me here at my studio. And if my studio's maybe slightly smaller than some, it's probably bigger than others. So it's an average type studio, and I go through on that video what some of those restrictions actually mean in practice. And I'm not going to spoil the ending on it, but it finishes off with my conclusions about whether I really can open or not. Thank you to those who've already watched it and have posted your comments at the on that video. It's well worth going to have a look at, and I'm using it as a place for us to start that discussion about reopening studios, about what we can do and what we can't do going forwards as photographers. The other big news is I've scheduled all the next, well, including this one, 8 live streams. They're all up on YouTube with their on the system there, so that you can go and set reminders on it, and also so that you know what's coming up. For example, we've got night photography next week, we've got landscape photography after that, and then a particular area of landscape photography. I'm going to look at hyperfocal distance and how that affects landscape work. We've got macro and focus stacking. That came as a request from someone a few weeks ago, so that's gone on the program. I'm going to do a special on hints and tips with Lightroom, but these are particular things that perhaps you may not be aware of you can do in Lightroom, such as creating a spotlight effect in there. I've got one planned all about lenses and how lenses can affect our photography. I've got one planned on distortion and foreshortening as well. So those are the 8 I've scheduled. I've actually planned out provisionally live streams right the way through to the end of the year. Now that's going to change because things will happen, and I will want to change that schedule. And maybe even within this 8 weeks, that order might change for various reasons. So if you've got particular burning topics, don't feel you can't suggest things, because if I think it's a timely topic, something that needs to be dealt with now, I'll juggle the order around. But I wanted to give some idea of what's coming up. I know particularly at least one person, Terry Hewitt, was going to let some people know about the live streams. I'm talking with him. We decided it would be helpful if there was a program in place so that people knew what was coming up as part of letting people know about the live stream. So we have 8 weeks planned, or 7 weeks after tonight anyway. So we've got that. My blog post, well, I only posted it today, and it's the 7th of my 7 deadly sins of photography, and yes, it's the one you've all been waiting for. It's the one on lust. So go and have a read of that at some point. It also went out in my newsletter earlier today, so hopefully you've received that, and you can have a read of it on there as well. So there's another point. If you're not on you don't receive my newsletter, or you didn't get one today, head over to my website, link down below, and on there is a link to subscribe to my newsletter. It goes out every week with notifications of things which are happening, news and views, and also about the blog posts as well. So go have a look. A little bit of industry news. This is old news, but something I wanted to mention because it had completely passed me by. One of the oldest websites for photographer model work was a website called NetModel, and they've been up and running since I think it's something like 1999. They've been going years, and it had really gone into tumbleweed territory on there, and nobody was using the site. And the owner kept saying, oh, I'm going to reboot it, I'm going to redesign it. And this had been going on for years and years and years, and nobody thought it was ever going to happen. Well, earlier this year, he has relaunched the website, and it's got a nice look to it. There are some features that are still missing, and there's not that many photographers and models active on there yet. But if you're fed up with Purpleport, as I know some people have got fed up with that as a site, then perhaps you might want to go and have a look at Netmodel again, because they are back in business. Things are starting to happen there, and at some point I'll update my profile on there. Mine's way out of date, I'm afraid, but it's another resource that's available, perhaps for those of you who are either fed up with Purpleport, or I do know one or two people who picked up bands on there. So just as an alternative, I thought I'd mention it, let you know about it. Although I believe it was earlier this year the relaunch happened. It just completely passed me by. Okay, so let's move on to our Q&A. Any questions, put them in the live chat, and I'll try and pick them up from there as we go through. Do add in there, I've got 3 people who've given me links to their websites that we're going to look at tonight, but if you want me to have a look at your website as part of this live stream, put the link in there and I'll pick it up at the end and have a look at those. So I'm just going to take a moment to have a look through the chat and see what's been going on there while I've been talking. So first of all, good evening everyone who's joined. Terry, Ron, Michael, Gary, Stuart, Rick, who's on there, Anthony. Hi Anthony. I know when we're talking about websites, Anthony Didsbury does web hosting. So if you've got specific questions about web hosting on that, he's someone worth talking to about that. Peter from France is on there. Kev, hello from his living room. Hello to your living room, Kev. Good to see you on here. And Michael says that he's lusting after a new camera, another camera or lens. Actually, I'm going to take that as a Q&A, actually, Michael, because it's something that comes up on photography discussions every so often. And I know this possibly isn't what you're getting at with your comments, but I do often get people asking me, I'm thinking of getting a new lens, or I'm thinking of getting a new camera, what should I get? And the answer I always give is always the same one. It's what are you getting frustrated with your current lens or current camera? Because if you're not frustrated with what you've currently got, you don't need anything new. What that means is you're not using your current gear to its fullest. When you fully use your gear, when you've exhausted that and you've got as far as you can with it, you'll start to get frustrated. Let me give you an example. When I went digital with, many years ago now, back in 2003, my first digital SLR, Canon 10D. In those days, they only had crop sensor cameras, but they only had, in the Canon range, the full frame mounts, which meant we lost all our wide angles. We couldn't get EFS lenses, which gave us our wide angles back. And after 2-3 years, I got really, really frustrated that I couldn't do wide angle work. As a travel photographer, that was something that just, I was getting so annoyed that I was missing shots on it that I knew I had to upgrade because of that one feature. That was the frustration factor for me. So don't get involved in gear acquisition system, GAS. I talked about that in one of my earlier blog posts as well, Michael, so perhaps have a look at that. It's the same sort of thing. When only lust after, only envy new kit when you've reached the limits of what you've got at the moment, and then start looking after things. So let's carry on with the Q&A now. Stuart Rees looked at Netmodel earlier in the year. Didn't seem to have moved on much between the two. well, last time I looked at it, it was the old, really grey setup. It was very, very different, a complete revamp to when I'd seen it on there. The version I'd last seen prior to today was the one that I saw when I first started working with models about 12 years ago. It hadn't changed much from that. It has definitely now changed from there. Kev says bought a new second-hand camera this month because his current camera don't really do video. Yep, good reason. You hit the frustration factor. Rick's never heard of Net Model, can't see himself signing up, and he's not using Purple Port at the moment. On that, no, it's not for everyone. I just wanted to mention it because it was one of those things that had passed me by, and it was a site that I knew that some photographers were aware of in the past but might not have been aware of had changed. So let's move on. Yeah, if you get any questions during the week, feel free to email me those questions and I will add them in to the Q&A for next week on there. Right, so the 3-minute challenge. Now this is where the whole microphone thing should work. When I start playing the video, it should automatically cut off my lapel mic. And when it comes back to me, it should automatically switch it on again. Let's see if it works. So we're going to start the 3-minute challenge with Rick's edit. The image this week's been provided by Gary Platt. If you want to submit, get in contact and I will send you details on how to submit. Anyone else? So here we go with Rick's edit.
Good evening everybody and welcome to another 3-minute Lightroom edit challenge. My name's Rick Bradbury. I'm recording this separately ready for Ian's live stream this Sunday, or tonight should I say, as you're watching this. And for this one we have an image provided by Gary Platt. So what we'll do, we'll jump over to the image now and we'll, I've actually remembered my phone this time, we will start the timer. And we will head over to the image. Boom, there we go. Okay, so what we'll do first, we'll head into develop and we will hit reset. That was a crop and change. I don't know whether, okay, so Lightroom imported the crop, fair enough. Must have had an XMP attached to it. Right, okay. So let's take a look and see what we've got. We have an image shot at ISO 2000, f2.8, 250th of a second, at 32mm on a, I'm guessing that's a Sony camera, weird model name. Right, let's have a look and see what we've got. First of all, let's change it to Adobe Standard, because Adobe Color is awful. Let's see what we've got here. So there is some kind of stage or walkway or background floor maybe, and part of the studio ceiling in there because it's shot with a wide angle lens. Okay, so let's see, black and white or color. Don't know what I'm going to go for with this. I'm probably going to stick with the colour, but we'll do a little bit of work on that. We will just tone down the warmth of it. We'll leave that as is. Bring down the exposure, go up with the shadows a little bit. The highlights can come down a touch on the dress. Bring the blacks down a little bit. And we'll go lens correction. Yeah, there's a lot of wasted pixels. Right, we'll touch on that in the feedback. And because this is shot higher, so I'm going to add a little bit of noise reduction. At this point, 50 seconds left. And let's go for a little bit of curve change. And pull back on the highlights a little bit. A little bit of global contrast, And again, go with colour. Just bring the exposure back a little bit, highlights just a little bit more, and we will call that done. I am going to do a little bit of a crop on this because it's framed like it is. And let's go, do we go for a square crop? Let's go for a square crop and a little bit of sharpening. We're about to run out of time. There we go. Boom. Okay. So we have technically not the before as it came into Lightroom, but anyway, because I did a reset, because I always do, the no photo selected rather than the before and after. Let's go back to that. Before. Adobe. And after. Before and after, before and after, and we'll come back with the feedback a little later on, and we'll hand back to Ian.
Right, and I'm back. Hopefully the sound has followed me. Looks as though it has on the display. Right, so thank you, Rick, for that edit on there. Right, moving on, our website review. Let's look at the first website. So our first website is one belonging to Gary Platt. I just need to find it all over here. Right, and Gary has... all the links to the three websites I've been given in advance, I've put in the show notes below. So if you want to have a look at them on your own screen and have a look round yourself, then you can find the links there. But the link for this one is gplatt.photography. And Gary has asked me to point out that this is an enthusiast site. And I'm not sure I spelled enthusiast right there. That is an enthusiast site, and for my comments to keep that in mind as I go through it. And his aim with the site is to connect with collaborators. So let me head over to the website, and let's have a look. So at the moment I'm just going to go full screen so you can see that. Right, okay, so this nice clean website at the top, white background, clear name, and it just shows different areas to it. Now, just scrolling down, the first thing I have spotted on here is that this is powered by Squarespace, which the reason I mentioned that is... hang on. The reason I mentioned that is because of a discussion I've been following recently on, well, it's a group to do with image metadata and how it's stored. And apparently Squarespace have a habit of stripping out some of the metadata on their images. And there's a bit of a campaign to get that sorted. So just be aware of that, Gary, and do your own checking on there. For me, the metadata within images is very important. I don't want my images to be seen as orphan images where people can use them because, oh, we couldn't find out who the owner of this was. So just be a little bit careful. Do your own research. I've not done any checks myself, but I wanted to mention that because I have heard that discussion just recently. But okay, looking at the site in general, it obviously is divided into different areas on there with interesting photos for each of them, with performance and dance being split out as two separate ones. Yeah, like the idea. My only thought on that would be try and find an extra topic to go in the space at the bottom, because it does look a little bit odd just by itself. Try and find a 9th one to put in there on that. So right, the first thing I always like to know about with a website is about the photographer. So we've got the home, which is this page. We've got an about and we've got a contact. So let's have a look at the about page. Now, I haven't generally gone through all these websites in advance to see what they're about. So this is first impressions. And I wanted to do it that way because when you're targeting people, it's those first impressions that count. So looking at this, nice, again, nicely laid out, nice clear font. So just sort of looking down here, interesting, good to have a photo of you on the about page. Lots of information there. I'm dyslexic, so I can't really read all the details very quickly on something like this. And as a live stream, I don't have the time to go through and read it one thing after another. But nice to see that it's broken down into paragraphs, which is nice and easy to read. And one paragraph just jumping out to me: long way to go in developing skills. The journey is half the fun. Yep, I agree with that. Strongly influenced by family, parents, long list of other people, which is composers and photographers. Interesting. Yeah, it gives a feel for the person. So if you're aiming at people for collaborations, then it's good to have that information there, so that people know where you're coming from, who you are. So that's good. And the next important thing is contact. Now, I know it's up at the top on there, but I often think perhaps there ought to be a link on here directly to it, so somebody who's been reading through this thinks, okay, now I want to get in contact with them. Maybe add the link down at the bottom to the contact page. Let's have a look at the contact page. Okay, it's a form. Right. This is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, I'm afraid. I know why people use forms on websites, because it kills the spam. However, I absolutely hate using forms on websites. I only use them as a last resort. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because the number of times that I've entered something in the message space on a website, and something's happened and I've lost what I've typed in. And it's usually when I've typed something long in there. So I much prefer to do it by email. So I've got a copy of what I've sent as well. So I'd perhaps encourage you, Gary, to add in, maybe keep the form if you want, but perhaps have, even if it's just a graphic with an email address in there that people can use to contact you. Maybe in that contact things, if you're looking for collaborations, perhaps it's with models, maybe have a link to your profiles on the likes of Purpleport or NetModel, since we're talking about that, that sort of thing. So try putting that sort of thing on the contact page as well in there. I'll tell you what I do with my contact page. I've got a lot of information on there, different ways people can contact me. I do have an email address on there that people can actually click on and send to. And I've been using it for 9 years, and it hasn't actually attracted much spam, which I'm really surprised about. But it's a fake email address in the sense that it's not my real email address, it's a forwarder to my real email address. And I don't use it for anything other than things like the website. So if it starts getting spam on there, it's the one that you possibly all know, contact me at ians-studio.co.uk. If it does start attracting a lot of spam, I can just delete it and put a different forwarder on there so that I'm protected from the spam bots. So have a think about things like that. And I mentioned this, I focused on that because you said you're using the website to try and find collaborations with people. So let's go back to the home page, which is actually the gallery page. And I'm going to pick one of these at random. And I'm going to pick architecture and features. Let's have a look at that. So we've got a heading page, cracking photo of, oh, I don't know which cathedral that is, Ely Cathedral. Right, so it's a list of photos to scroll through. Now, here again is another pet peeve of mine, and something to think about, Gary, is some of these photos, the Ely one, I'd like to see the whole thing. Now, yes, I'm just going to go full screen so you can see the effect of this. I can do full screen with Control and the mouse button. I can to zoom out and do it, but the vast majority of people probably won't do that to view an image. And it's such a shame because it's a great image, but I'd like to see it fit the screen first and then have the option to see it larger on the screen. So moving down, I'm not going to critique on the images, I'm just looking at how the sites are. Yeah, it's a lot of scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, which may mean that people get bored before they get to the bottom on there. So I would consider having smaller, almost thumbnail images, perhaps not quite thumbnail, but the people can then move in and look at the ones that they're interested in on the website rather than full images. What I do like is the little bit of narrative between the images on there, a little bit of the background of what we're looking at, and I think that works really well for as an explanation on it. So, the other thing, again, I don't know whether Squarespace will do this, but consider having a button on here. So if you are right down here and you want to get back to the top, it's not scroll, 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 and scroll, 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 scroll. Ah, right, I'm back at the top. Now I can go to the home page. So think about those fast jumps back to top buttons. A lot of these sites which are have a builder system with them have the ability to enable that. I don't know whether Squarespace will do that, but if it does, consider adding that because it's just a nice usability feature. Right, let's have a look at one other. I'm going to hit the dance one because I did some feedback on this dance image a few weeks back. I really do like it, so any excuse to see it again. So yeah, a bit of the explanation on there. Another nice dance image there. And again, it's the same thing about having to scroll all the way down to see some. Oh, love it. Some lovely, effectively theatre work here. Most of you know I'm a big fan of theatre photography. I do a lot of that professionally. So it's lovely to see how these images have been captured. Right, now that's interesting. I really like that. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by theatre ones. The blur on there, I think that is a wonderful shot. I really do like it. Yeah, it's a great shot. Ah, now then, that image looks familiar. I wonder where we've seen that before. That is our 3-minute challenge for tonight. And as you say, that shawl, it is all about the shawl, isn't it, that image? Right, okay. Now we've got a back to home. Right, what's the previous button? Does that give me some other dance ones? No, it goes to the previous gallery. Right, okay. So, yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, Gary. I hope some of that has been helpful to you on the feedback. And I've sort of picked up one or two things to be aware of. And by implication for everyone else, think about the usability of your website and how people are going to go through it and access the different parts of it. Before I move on to our next thing, which is my part of the 3-minute challenge, I just want to nip over to the chat and see what's happened in there. Anything of to note? Yeah, Rick saying get rid of the powered by Squarespace on there. Yeah. Call to action on the about me, make it clear that you're looking for collaboration. Yeah, all very good points, Rick, on that. Yeah, the galleries, the dark all light background, the current format is more like a blog than an image gallery. Yeah, all fair points on it. Yeah, Word, as Anthony has pointed out in the chat, WordPress, there is the option to have that floating back to top button that'll take on there. I have one on my website. So yeah, all good, fair comments on there with the website. Right, let's move on and carry on with the theme of Gary's stuff. And let's do the 3-minute edit challenge, my version of it. Control. Hello, welcome to another 3-minute Lightroom edit challenge. This time I have an image supplied by Gary Platt. So now I'll just get the timer started and that gives me 3 minutes to do the edit. And away we go. So into the develop module. Develop module, right. And the image looks like either a performer or a dancer on there. Looking at the histogram, most of it's on the darks area, quite dark. I'm going to, because I'm curious more than anything else, I'm just going to whack the exposure up so I can see what we're looking at here. Right, okay, so this is either a studio performance or it's a stage area. I can't tell quite which. Now, what I need to do is get some separation between the subject and the background on here. So let's just look at this and then bring up the shadows slightly on there. I'll try and do that. Oh dear, that's brought those blacks up at the top, which I don't want. Let's crop this. First of all, come down. I don't want to take too much. I like the sheen that's at the bottom there. So I'll probably go with a crop looking like that. Now, how am I going to bring out some details? Exposure up a little bit. I'm going to go higher than I need to. That has given me some overexposure, which I'm going to bring the highlights down to compensate for that, which is one of the techniques I would use in my theatre photography on there. Right, I think just that hint of a stage in there actually works. So that shadows coming up, I think helps on there. I actually quite like a little bit of stage there. Now I'm seeing, let's go full screen so you can see this a little bit better. And I've got 1 minute left. I need to crop out that edge there. Now the white balance on here, let's have a look. I'm going to try tungsten. Yeah, that's looking a little bit better on there. And I don't want it too warm. I quite like the more natural colours. That tells me it's probably a stage production on it. Now, vibrance. 32 seconds. I'm just bringing it down very slightly I want to try and keep the orange. Can I do it with the HSL on the orange? Bring the orange, oh no, not the hue, saturation, orange up, just a little bit more. That's good. Okay, so back to basic, and I'm about to run out of time on here. A little bit of clarity I think will help as well with it. And I'm out of time. Okay, that was interesting one. I enjoyed doing the edit on it. Let's have a look at the before and after on it. Oh, I've done it again. Before and after. So that would be my take on it. A few other things I would like to do with an image like this, if I'd had the time, I'd have probably worked a bit more on the detail of the material to bring that out with a bit of texture, a bit of clarity on there, localized on it. But I'll give my feedback on the image as a whole later in the show. So back to me in the studio. Right, okay. Interesting. Rick and I both cropped very similarly with the image on there, but more about that later on in the feedback section. Right, let's move on to our second website, and this one is belonging to Philip Antrobus, and whilst he didn't give me a huge number of notes on it, looking at the website, which is that philipantrobusphotography.co.uk, I can see that it's actually a wedding photography site. So let's go over and have a look at that. Right, okay, so I'm on Philip's site. Right, just a general look at the image. So it opens with a slideshow, and oh, it's one of those sort of fancy scrolling things on there. Right at the top, we've got the menu, blog, wedding clients, other work, packages, FAQ, slideshows, booking form and contact. Right, okay, let's start at the beginning with this and let's look at that About Me page. So if I was wanting to book a wedding, one of the things I would want to know a little bit about is the photographer, so let's have a look at it. And again, it's information. And right, yeah, we've got a contact, straight to the contact form there, and contact details obviously at the bottom of presumably every page. The Why Me, that's a nice little touch to have that at the bottom. Nice to have the list of associations on there. I think if you've got a client coming to it, that helps reinforce that you're not just Uncle Phil with a camera, that you've got awards, that you're part of the appropriate associations as well. That will give some form of security to people. Right, I would also want to have a look at some of your wedding work. So where do I find that? Looking at the menu at this point, that's not exactly obvious. I've got one for if I'm a client to go to. I've got one for other work. Maybe it's under slideshows. So you see what I mean here, Philip? That I'm going through it thinking, where is what I'm looking for on there? So slideshows, let's have a look at that. and slideshows are, by the looks of things, YouTube slideshows. So no, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's go to the home page. Maybe there's something more obvious on there. We've got photos on the front page. Is there a gallery? Wedding albums. Now, is that actual physical albums, or is it albums that... No, that's not what I'm looking for. Testimonials, good. Ah, right, some photos. So, right. Are these ones I can look at? No, that appears to have just taken me back to the top of the page when I clicked on it. Yep, no, those go back to the top of the page. Right, can you see the sort of usability problem there, that as somebody who doesn't know the way around the website, I'm trying to find my way around here. So we've got a blog. Right, okay, maybe one of these will just give me an example of your work. That's one particular... Oh, what happened to the photos I was looking at? They've just vanished. So one photo and a blog post. Okay, I'm going to try this wedding clients. I'm assuming that's a login for the wedding clients to actually log into. This is the galleries, is it? Let me have a look at one of your galleries. No, they are for the clients themselves. Right. Okay, I'll allow the those. Back to main page. Right, okay, so you see where I'm going with this, Philip. The main thing I want to see is, if I was a client, I'd want to see a gallery where I can look through. It's great that we've got this slideshow, but as soon as I start to look at an image, think, oh, do I like that or not? All of a sudden it's changed on there. So add a gallery in there. FAQ, frequently asked questions. Do you have another photographer with you on the day? Yeah. The usual sort of things, yep. And yeah, they open up. That all works nicely on there. Let's have a look at packages as well, and the different ones. Right. Okay, I'm going to make a comment here about the different packages. There's two schools of thought about websites and pricing with weddings, and I'm in two minds about it. I have my prices on my website, but then wedding photography isn't my main area of business. In fact, it's been over 10 years since I last did one. That's how infrequent I do them. There is an argument to say that you don't want to put the prices on the website because you want your client to actually make contact with you to get those prices. So one approach you could think about is it could be almost an automated email that simply says, click here and we will email the price list to you. And you can automate that. The advantage of doing that is you then get the email addresses and the contact details of the people who have been looking at your website and who are serious, so you can follow up on them. So have a think about doing something like that with it, and that might act as a lead magnet for you. So you could easily put a form on here which gathers the details, sort of name, date of wedding, sort of basic information, email address, etc., and connect that form to an autoresponder, which then sends out an email with your price list. That way you can then look through that list and think, for example, if you've got somebody who's made that inquiry and the date of the wedding is next month, you can get on the phone to them straight away or get on the email to them straight away and say, yeah, I can help you on this, and be proactive. You can make that next move. So have a think about that for a way of lead generation. And because I'm curious, I'm going to look at other work. Let's see what that's all about. So this is it galleries? Right, yeah, we've just got, oh yeah, they're all galleries. The ones with the icon are just ones we can't see. So presumably other client work, and I would guess if I click on Life in a Jungle, we get a gallery to do with it, which is a nice gallery. Now that's the sort of gallery I'd like to see for the wedding photos, so that I've got something I can then look at and perhaps click on one to see the larger version. Yeah, so I think your best of wedding photos ought to be very prominent as a gallery, unless I'm missing something on here. And if I'm missing it, the chances are your clients are missing it as well. So those are my basic thoughts on the website there. I'm going to head over and have a look at the chat and see what people have been saying while I've been whittering on. And let's see this. Right, lot on there. Site jumps around a lot. Yeah, oh, it's a SmugMug site. Yeah, I hate SmugMug as a name. Yeah, Rick slightly disagreeing on there. I didn't spot the spelling mistakes, so that's my dyslexia. Yeah, Anthony saying that the hero slideshow doesn't work on his Firefox browser. On there, yes. So a few bits and pieces for you on that, Philip. I hope it's helped you out with that. Do let me know if you found it helpful. Right. Okay. So moving on. Let's. Oh, that wasn't meant to be the next review. We were meant to be doing the 3-minute Lightroom challenge feedback. So let's do that. Then I'll go back and do David's website. So here we go. On with the.
Okay, a bit of feedback on this for you, Gary. Again, it threw me a little bit, I must admit, with it importing it with a crop already applied. It must have picked up from an XMP that came in with the file. Anyway, now, one thing to note, if we go back and do a reset on the file, so there we go, that is as framed as shot. There, if we go, rule of thirds, there we go. Subject is slap bang in the middle. We've got a ton of wasted pixels here, a ton of wasted pixels here. There are times when, yep, okay, we can crop after the fact, and there are times when you'll do that because you don't really know where the movement's going to go, what the subject's going to do. However, I don't really want to be throwing that much resolution away. I want to try and frame in camera if I can do, and I probably would have preferred to shoot a little bit tighter on a longer lens. Obviously not too tight, but if they are going to be moving around, just so you end up with more resolution without dead pixels going to black or areas of no interest really, such as the side of the studio here. Now, we've got other issues with this. It's not in focus and it's not particularly sharp. It's somewhat blurry. Now, an image doesn't have to be pin sharp or pin in focus for it to work. However, when you've got a combination of it being out of focus and when it's not sharp, because we're dealing with a shutter speed that's not stop the action, this is with a continuous light, by the looks of it, then it doesn't work for me, really. What does work, and you could combine flash with something like this to freeze the action on the subject, freeze parts of the cape, throw, I don't know what you call this thing, and let the rest of it burn in some continuous light so it shows movement, like it has done here. And it works quite well. And first, when you look at a small thumbnail of this, you think, oh, it's kind of a shutter drag image with a bit of a pop of flash, and it makes the kind of the blanket or the throw, whatever it is, look a little like fire in a way. I don't know if that's what you're going for, or it's a bit of a dance kind of move. I mean, there's work that needs doing with this. Personally, I would, in a studio setting, in an environment where you're trying to control, there is a space for continuous light, there's a time where you can mix continuous light with flash. I would prefer to use flash, and you're just making your life hard shooting at 2.8, because especially if a subject's moving as they are, they could come closer, could come further away the camera, be that diagonally across the frame or just straight forward, straight back, and you're going to lose focus very, very quickly. You know, on any camera really that you shoot with, so you're better off shooting stop down. Now, continuous light falls down there because you're at ISO 2000 already, so you'd have to go to ISO silly to be able to stop the lens down, and this is where flash wins really in the studio. It's not noisy, you know, per se. I mean, if I get rid of the noise reduction, you know, it's fine. You can see a bit of noise in there, but it's not too problematic really. But again, we're seeing it's out of focus, loosely cropped, and bear in mind this is out of focus at 2.8 at 32mm on I think it's a full frame camera. Correct me if I'm wrong, I've got no idea. I don't speak Sony. Like, just why don't they just put what the camera actually is? Anyway, it's still lost focus even at 32mm shot wide from a little further away. So goes to show that depth of field you can run out of pretty quickly, especially when someone's moving. It's an interesting idea and concept. You've got an issue with the hair here that starts to bleed into the background a little bit. Obviously colour and skin tones aren't going to be amazing from a continuous light versus a flash. And we have, because she's turned with the white dress, or grey or white, it's hard to tell what it is, somewhat reflective, as she's turned straight on with a flat part of the dress, which has come partly because she's got her arms up, partly because it's just a fitting of the dress, that starts to burn out. Now, we've probably not completely lost highlight detail yet, but it does take the eye away from whatever else is happening in the image up here. The face is much darker, arms are much darker, skin is going to be much darker than a white or light coloured dress or garment. So a few things to consider there. Concept wise it's good. I think you could do a pop of flash with a controlled light with a grid, something a little softer as well. Watch out for the height of the light also, and how it casts a shadow on the nose, because it can start to make the nose look a little different than it is as well. But a pop of flash to freeze the action with burning in some continuous lights controlled, which hit the throw, could make it look like fire. That could work quite well. So it's something to work on certainly, and something you can have a crack at again, by all means. But yeah, try and frame it a little tighter with this as well. So enough of me yabbering on. We'll hand back to Ian. Back to the show.
Okay, and we're back. Right, just to put a little bit of context into Rick's comments there, I think Rick assumed it was a studio shoot in the sense of photographic studio. I understand it to be what I would refer to as a theatre performance, a dance performance, and I now know from the comments it was a live performance when the image was created. So that does affect what was actually done. So let me just bring up the images. Now, I zoom in. Yes, I can. I should be able to, yeah. Now, we've got two images here. One is my edit and one is Gary's edit. And what we've got here on the right, let me go full screen. The one on the right here is my edit. Gary's is the one on the left. Now, a couple of differences I'd like to just point out with it. First of all is I've brought the light up so that we can see the context that this is a stage production. With Gary, with your version, the dancer looks almost as though she's just floating in the air. We've got a little bit of a reflection, but we can't see the fact that there is a stage there that she's on. So that was the first thing. The other thing to watch, and this is it's purely a post-processing issue, is the loss of the hair into the background. I can see on yours that it just bleeds into the background completely, whereas on mine I've managed to bring out that detail so that she's separated from the background. Now, coming in about the focus. Now, I'm going to disagree with Rick. Hey, what a surprise. I would say with this being a theatre image, what we've got is actually quite a good shot given the circumstances. Generally, you have managed to freeze the action. Yes, it's not as sharp as it could be, and we've got a bit of noise in the background there on mine because I've raised things up. Now, if I'd had a little bit more time, I could deal with that in post-production, the noise on there, and sort that out. And certainly at the ISO level that you're working at, to ISO 200, you should be okay with a theatre type image on there. The question I would come back to is, what's the image going to be used for? Now, if this is being done as a publicity image for a theatre and it's only going to be used on the web, something like that, there is adequate sharpness there for that use. But we would need to do something about this speckled highlights that we've got there. So I'm just going to go back into the develop module and just see what I can very quickly do about that, just so that you can see how it can be sorted. He says, hoping that it all catches up. And naturally, having gone in here, that speckled highlights have all disappeared. Oh no, that's Gary's. So let me go over to my image, which is the other one. Yeah, with those speckled highlights, a little bit of noise reduction. Sorry, that one is mine. A little bit of noise reduction on there. So we bring the luminance noise reduction up, and if I was to sharpen it just a touch and go quite high actually, and then I'll use the masking, holding the Alt key down to just control the areas that I actually want to sharpen on it to about there. And yeah, at 100% it's not perfect, but as a theatre shot at a more standard resolution, you'd certainly get away with that. And I know something like that printed up A4 to go in a foyer display at a theatre or a dance studio, you'd be fine with that. You'd get away with it. I like the way you've captured the motion, and what you know, Gary, and what I know, and what most other people watching this don't know, is just how difficult photographing dance is when it's a live performance. The lighting, you have absolutely no control over it. It's whatever the lighting engineer has set up there. And yes, they are always going to put your subjects in white clothing, so you have to deal with it in post-production. So all those things considered, it's not a bad image at all. I like it. I think you've done really well given the circumstances that you're in. Yeah, maybe a different lens that was sharper. I don't have a problem with the f2.8 on it. I think you've got sufficient depth of field in there for that to work on there. It's not tack sharp, but it's sharp enough for what you're likely to do with it. So those are my comments on there. Slightly different to Rick's view. Let me just catch up on the chat and see what's been going on while I've been looking at that. Yeah, as Gary said, a live performance, you can't use flash. You never can. And what's more, it would just ruin the lights that the lighting director has done on there. Used on her website and for promotional flyers. Yeah, I think you get away with that, but just that slightly different post-production on there, on it. On that. So let's move on to our third website, which involves me having to go back a page on here, which is David's website. And this seems to be some form of showcase website, and it's on SmugMug. So let me just find the right page. Yeah, there we go. And all right, we have the website here. Busy Bee Photography. For David. Right, let's just have a look at the opening page. Well, the first thing I would say, David, about this is get your own domain name. The problem with using SmugMug, the name stinks on that, but also it doesn't say professionalism, and we know that you are looking to do something professionally because one of the options on here just simply says hire at the top. So we know from that you're wanting to do something professional. .smugmug.com says amateur. So the two don't go together. So get your own domain name, get it registered, and you can use that on SmugMug because the previous website that we looked at was a SmugMug website and it had a custom domain. It doesn't cost much to register a domain, and I'm sure you can probably find a name that works. Busy Bee Photography, will that be taken? Probably not. Have a look at doing that. Right. Again, same comment about layout on here. Try and find a way where you haven't got one straggling icon at the bottom with how those are laid out on there. I noticed down at the bottom you've got Instagram, 500 pics and Flickr on there. I can understand having the Instagram one on there, social media. The other two are basically gallery sites. Do you really want them to go to a different gallery site? If this is your main website, keep them here rather than going away, because this is where your call to action is. This is where your hire option is on there. So let's have a look at that about page. and we have creativity, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, date. Nice to see it's up to date, May 2020. Did you update this because you knew I was reviewing it, or were you updating it anyway on there? So that's the about. Again, no call to action for contacts. I'd like to see that on the about page. So you found out, here's how to contact me on there. So galleries, let's go to galleries. No, that's the home page. Oh, the home page and the galleries is the home page. Right, that's the home page. Ah, right, okay. Sorry, maybe I'd left it on a different page. I do remember now with this. Nice use of hero images for the home page. I do remember seeing this when I was loading it into the browser earlier on. One thing just to say, and I can't remember whether it was on your site, David, or one of the other sites with the hero pages which had text over it. Yes, here we go. And I recognise that shoot. It was here in my studio. You've got writing over somebody's face on there. Just choose a little carefully which images you put on your hero as your hero images. If you want to get an idea about that, have a look at my own website. I'm not saying it's perfect. There might be one or two that don't quite work. But you'll notice with the hero images on my own website, I've got text on one side and the main subject on the other. And I've deliberately chosen images that work like that. And some images, I even flipped them so that the main subject is on the opposite side to where the text is. And actually, if I look at the screen as well when I'm talking to it, yeah, so you've got text one side, image the other. You've got the background, the image goes all the way through, but the main subject is on the opposite side to where the text is. Yeah, that's the image. That's the one where you've got the writing right across the person's face. So think about what images you choose there. I mean, that works beautifully as a hero image, but the one with writing across somebody's face, that was the very first image I saw when I went to your website. And I thought, oh, that's a bit naff. Going across someone's face. I mean, this works great. You've got the image at the bottom, the subject at the bottom, text at the top. So some of them are working, some of them aren't on there. Right, yeah, the galleries was what we were just looking at. Yeah, avoid the stray one down there. Let's have a look at the blog. What have we got down there? Yeah, we've got, right, 3 blogs. June 2018, the beginning, presumably also in 2018, and May 30th, yesterday. A big gap in between. I'm not sure whether I'm bothered by that or not, to be perfectly honest. On it, let's have a look at your attack of gas. Yeah, gear acquisition syndrome. Right. Layout a bit weird on it. One thing just to comment about, and I don't know whether SmugMug allows you to do this, but when someone like myself is looking at it on a big screen, what we've got is we've got all the text sort of spread out and then the images down one side and that off on one side. I'm guessing if, I don't know what windows I've got in the background, let me close all those so that we can see this a little bit clearer. I'm guessing if it was on a different orientation like that, that looks a little bit different and looks better with that image down there. So at what point does it change? As I move out, we've got this problem with it that it suddenly becomes a little bit weird as you go through with that auto resizing. So it's worth checking those different layouts, because when that's full screen, it doesn't particularly look a great layout with that just orphaned by itself at the bottom on there. Let's have a look at your projects page. Galleries, it's a bit of a, right, okay, a thumbnail that's losing half the text on there. Perhaps try and find something else as a better thumbnail for that in that one, on that, especially as you've only got 3 of these project galleries on there. And search. Oh, what can we search for? Let's search for, I know you've got pictures of cars on here because I saw one. Let's search for a car. Yep, that comes up. And let's have a look. Is this Cuba by any chance, I wonder? It looks remarkably like it, Havana. Oh, that's, yeah, it is. It is. I knew I recognised that. Yeah, love it, love it. I had a great day or day and a half in Havana myself, so that's bringing back memories. Okay, let's close that down. That's left me in the travel gallery. Okay, back to galleries. And let's finally look at hire. Let's see what that's got to say. Right, no, let's try that one. Yeah, hire page, not a great deal on there. You've got an emphasis in that sentence as well, which doesn't hold out much hope, I'm afraid. If you want to hire me, it starts off. How about when you want to hire me? Be positive. Have that plus to it, that you want people to hire you. You want your services to go out there. Talk about the sorts of projects that you have done in here and the sort of things, why should somebody hire you? And that sort of information. We've got, what, 2 sentences in there? Hire me for shoots. What sort of shoots do you do? Talk about that on your hire page. And then how can that link through, that call to action? When you want to hire me, this is the information I need. This is how I want you to send it to me. Here's the email address and all that. So the contact, I guess it's a form. Yeah, it's a form. Yeah, right. And I will go back and cancel that. So again, those sort of little bits and pieces on there. So hope that's been of help to you, David, as we've gone through with it. I'm just going to have a look at the chat, see if anything else has been picked up. Richard is asking, did David say that he wants to work towards shooting professionally? He didn't say one way or the other, to be honest, on there. With that. Yeah, explanation about hero images, yeah. Yeah, Gary's saying he likes the dark, clean layout. I still like light coloured layouts, but that's me. Yeah, Rick suggesting remove hire, and confirming my thoughts about the domain name on there. Shutter never does the thing about is missing a photo. Yeah, Rick's pointed out there's no photo on the about page. There's various bits and pieces on that. So let's move on with what we've got on here. So we've done the 3-minute challenge. So looking at the Q&A, and here I don't see any more websites being posted in there to have a look at. So I'm going to leave that. No more major questions in there. So just time for me to wrap up and say thanks for watching. And I still haven't managed to get this under the hour. I thought this was going to be a short one. So thanks for watching, folks. Thanks for keeping with it. Thanks to everyone who's given me a website to look at. I hope everybody else has found it interesting. I've certainly got lessons I can take forward onto my own website from things I've looked at on others. Things to say about that, about websites, is they are never finished. They are always a work in progress. And don't be worried about it being a work in progress. Just do the best you can, sort out the problems. Thanks to Rick for his contributions, both in the chat and in the reviews of the images and the 3-minute challenge on there. Thanks to Gary for his letting us loose on his image tonight on that. And the usual plea, subscribe if you haven't already. Do comment, it does help. Do like. Go on, you know you want to. Go and like it now while it's in your mind on there. And then next week, we're going to be looking at night photography. And I've got a photographer's showcase with Kev Pack in there. We're going to be looking at Kevin's work on that. So that's a really great one. I'm really looking forward to next week. So until then, folks, thanks for watching, and as ever, keep making great photos. See you next week. Thanks for watching this cut down version of my live stream. If you want to see the full version, it's available in my academy, and you can find the links to that up on the screen here. It only costs £6 a month or £60 per year, and you have access to the full archive of live streams along with a wealth of other resources to help you with your photography, including inspiration sheets, lighting diagrams, access to members-only areas of the forum. So do take a look at that. And so thanks for watching, and until next time, keep making great photos.